Well, hello there. Welcome to my video this week. My name's Karen from karenandtara.org. And this week I'm going to be talking about visioning your future, but specifically in respect of visioning your future so that your soul doesn't get stuck here in 3D. That's a bit wild, isn't it? Anyway, let's move on. Without a vision, we can't create our desired future. Now, that is true in all aspects of life and business, personally and, globally. So I'm going to be talking about the micro and the macro, how all of that comes together as well today. So without a clear focus, we won't achieve what we want to achieve. Now, let's be clear here. Achieving, goal setting, desiring certain things is not a bad thing in and of itself. It's the energy and the intention behind it that makes the difference. And it's the same with things like manifesting, abundance, wealth, success. All of this is not necessarily about grabbing at wealth for personal gain, but it's often misconstrued. People within, I'm going to say, spiritual communities, let's just say that. People often go, it's not really good to be manifesting or wanting success because that's all personal service to self. And yes, it can be, but it doesn't have to be. So like I say, it's the energy and the intention behind it that makes all the difference. And definitely there are some people that create and manifest in that way for personal gain, but it doesn't have to be. Now, when we are inner directed, inner guided, soul driven, soul guided, all of that, we become much more expanded, and then the frequency of everything that we want to create as well becomes elevated, so that now we are working at the level of soul purpose, legacy, soul mission, our work here. In order to be aligned in this way, we must be connected with and in communication with our soul for that inner direction, that voice within that guides and inspires us. Now, when we make decisions from this level of our being, it is elevated beyond 3D, and it becomes less and less about what we can get out of this, and it becomes more about service. It's about what we can give, understanding that as we give, so shall we receive. But even that can be misinterpreted by people, misunderstood. There's a lot of confusion around all of this for people because from a 3D kind of mental mind perspective, it's not logical to run business that way, is it? Being of service is often seen as a way to go broke and stay broke. There's a kind of poverty consciousness to this as well. If you give too much, you'll go broke. If you help other people to, elevate themselves or become empowered, then, maybe they'll succeed more than you and then you'll go broke. And, it's this kind of poverty consciousness mindset around all of this. And the thing is, what I've found is that when we're trying to get ahead with our business, earn a little bit more money, get a bit more of a bigger client base, but it can also be the same in things like relationships too. So it kind of is in life in general. But when we're not getting ahead in the way that we think we should be getting ahead, based on the work that we're putting into it, which can feel like a lot sometimes, let's be honest. But then what tends to happen with people is that they then start blaming something outside of themselves for why they're not getting ahead to where they think they should be. So then, I get people come to me and go, oh, I think I must have taken a past life vow of poverty because I just can't get my business going, or I can never hang on to my money. As soon as I get hold of it, it slips through my fingertips and I'm broke again. So I think I must have something in a past life, or a block that's stopping me. And sometimes people even say maybe there's, some other nefarious reason why. Either way, their belief becomes that there is no money in being of service. And you shouldn't overgive. Shouldn't probably overgive anyway, that's true. But when you give too much, you get nothing back. You end up broke. So it's this whole poverty mindset, poverty consciousness. Giving sounds great on paper. But from a 3D perspective, when you focus on giving, surely you're never going to be able to develop a business in that way. From a 3D perspective, that does seem to apply, doesn't it? We've seen that maybe there's somebody that's overgiving, giving. They run out of energy. They've got no money coming in. They're broke. It makes sense. We've all seen it before. We've maybe even done it before. And that applies when we work from a 3D perspective, but not all of us are working from that level. And let me just also say that you can be spiritual and still be very 3D mindset when it comes to things like money, giving and receiving, supporting growth and expansion in another person, helping to empower another person. And this is where our shadow work becomes invaluable. Now, you might know exactly what I'm saying here, but if that knowing is not embodied, and if we're not living from a place of applying that knowing, then how advanced are we really? Or is it still just a mental construct? Because there's a lot of things that you and I both know that we don't really apply. And if we did apply it, our lives would change, and we'd begin to create what we want to create. But we don't apply it always. So our shadow can deliver to us feelings like jealousy, bitterness, the unfairness that someone else should be getting ahead more than us. As I say, whether that's in relationships, in wealth accumulation, or whether that's, that their business is growing nicely, or that they're, beginning to experience a beautiful, abundant, happy life. So we can feel jealous, bitter. We feel the unfairness of it. Maybe we even feel greed around that. The need to have more clients, the need to have more followers, the need to make more money, sometimes just for the sake of having it because it makes us feel good. And this is the thing with our shadow. We can be saying all the right things on the surface. We can look like we really know what we're talking about, like as if we are applying that in our life. It might all look great on the surface, but behind the scenes, maybe things are different. Maybe things are not so sweet. And maybe there's an even deeper shadow in there that's telling the person that they are all sweet and everything's good. The thing is, this is where doing the work really comes in. Because it's about being honest with yourself. It's about getting help to get out of your stuckness. And maybe it's about needing to find someone who's honest enough and maybe can feel and sense and read your energy as well to see where you're blocking, where you're holding back. But maybe it's about finding someone to really be able to reflect with you what's really going on. Because as I say, we can say everything's good on the surface, but what's going on? What's the feeling? What's going on the inside, in the shadows that we're not looking at or dealing with? Obviously, you probably from my other videos, you know that I work with people to help them to get unstuck, clear the blocks, but to shift their perspective, to create a shift of consciousness that allows them to see things in a different way from a higher perspective. Because the same thing that's happening in our life, viewed at a 3D level or viewed from a 5D and beyond level, it can look completely different. And let's be honest, that's why when we wake up and we start talking and behaving differently than we were before, our friends and family just don't get us. We're not on the same wavelength as them anymore. Sometimes it's as if they just can't even hear us. They can't fathom us. It's like, what the hell, is she talking about? Because from a 3D level and a 5D level, things look different. So I'm not talking here, about wafting incense or having crystals all around your house. I'm really talking about how you see the world from a 5D perspective, or how you see your place in the world, or how you see the future of the world and how it's unfolding. Now, the problem is that we can get a bit lost in some of the New Age and Ascension materials that tell us that everything's going to be fine here because this is the Great Awakening timeline. I say that myself. This is the Great Awakening timeline. But we can't afford to just sit back and do nothing. We can't let that go. Oh, it's fine. We're in the Great Awakening. That's fine. I'll just sit back and do nothing. Then you are not creating your future. You're not helping us create a better future either. But the other thing is that we can get lost in the belief that everything's going to hell in a handbasket and it's all out of our control. So we may as well sit back and do nothing because I can't do a thing. So there's, those two mindsets. I'm sure there's others as well. Now, that's the mindset exactly that these controllers want. Make sure you've seen my last week's video about this for more context if you need it. The video, I called it Urgent, Reclaim Your Soul Now. Yeah, it says what it is on the tin, right? Anyway, it's very clear that the W, E, F have a vision for our future of what they want it to be like for us, and they are moving us towards it at ever-increasing speeds. But what about our vision for our future? Do we have a say in what we get to experience next, or is it already set in stone? Well, no, it's not set in stone, but that still doesn't mean that we get to sit back and do nothing. I've said it many times before, that the controllers consider us to be useless and powerless. We are not, but we do tend to be a little bit misinformed about what it really takes to create and manifest something, a reality, and we don't understand how to use our power. All well and good to manifest a free ticket or something from time to time, or to manifest, X amount of dollars per month from working hard for it. That's one way of manifesting. But that's really not the same as creating or manifesting a life of freedom, sovereignty, and liberation for all of us. In fact, it's vastly different. And it's here that we can see how limited we are in our understanding of power, our power, and how to use it. So again, having a look at the micro and the macro levels of this. We have two levels of density here. Well, there are more, but I'm just going to talk about these two pretty much. I might mention the third. Density 1 is our first, second, third chakras and earth. Density 2 is our fourth, fifth, and sixth chakras and Tara, 5D earth. Now, I know some people don't believe in chakras, don't believe in the chakra system. Sorry, I've got something in my eye there. Some people don't believe in the chakra system, but it does serve as a good model for me to explain things. So just go with me here. We have 3D, 4D, 5D that we are most aware of. 3D is the physical, 4D is the astral or the spiritual realm, 5D is our next physical level. Our soul self comes in at the level of the density 2, and it encompasses the fourth, fifth, and sixth levels or chakras, if you like. That's where that comes in. Now, in density 1 in 3D, we're usually not aware of our soul. And when we begin to awaken to the higher levels of 3D and into the lower levels of the 4D, into that spiritual realm, that's when we start getting connected with our heart and with our soul there. Now, the 7th, 8th, and 9th levels is where we expand further and we connect with the oversoul. Now, remember, I said previously that if this is a simulation, like in the Matrix, it's being projected into the 4D astral level. And we're living in the 3D human body projection made manifest because it's more physical, it's more dense. So the 3D human body lives and believes what it picks up via the 3D mental mind, and it gets that from what is projected into the 4D astral. Like a simulation, they project the information in the 4D, we pick it up from there, we bring it down, we live it. That could be a belief or a program of poverty, of drought, of famine that puts us in fear, or the belief that there is a virus out there and we have to be afraid of it, or they put into that level there the rebranding of weather patterns and you have to be in fear of that now. It doesn't mean it's real. It's just a program. And at a 3D level, you pick up that program and you believe in it. And that understanding that it's just a program that's being fed to us, I know it's hard to wrap your head around that. But you're going along with it. When you believe it, you're using your energy of belief and consent to participate with it. And it's that energy that makes it real and it becomes made manifest. But your soul doesn't believe it. Your soul knows better. Your soul is getting its information from 5D and the 6D spiritual realm and beyond, maybe. But it, from that perspective, is getting a whole different viewpoint of what's going on here. It sees clearly from that higher perspective because it's not stuck in this lower level density here where we're all living in this, kind of sheltered bit where we can't see beyond. But your soul is there and it sees beyond. When you're connected with your soul, it will tell you these things. When you're not, you'll believe the propaganda programmed into the astral 4D, which then drops down into your mental mind, and you're surrounded by it in the 3D physical, and you look around and you go, wow, yeah, well, it must be real. It must be happening. Look around me. It's all happening. Yeah, some people won't like hearing that. When you are in fear, you actually drop your frequency down. So even if you were evolving and being more connected with your spirit soul, when you, for example, parts of you are in your 3D and you look around and go, oh my God, it really must be real. This is happening around me. Then you're dropping out of that connection stream with your higher self, and you're down in the 3D and you're looking around, and there's a lot of fear around you. You can feel it, you can sense it. It's maybe even affecting you if you're a bit empathic. And now you're dropping your frequency into fight and flight. And at that level, you can't hear the messages from your soul anymore. In fight and flight, you're very shut down. You're purely in survival mode. They call it the reptilian mind, of course. Then what you're picking up is coming from the 4D astral projection or the simulation. And it's also where you start to go along with what that simulation tells you. And now you're heading for the future on Earth as they want to create it. When you are aligning with 3D, everything you vision and focus on creating is 3D stuff, because it's in alignment to the desires and the vibration of your lower 3 chakras. And very often it is self-service or service to self at that level, because that connection with your higher part is kind of not there at that point. Sorry, my notes are all over the place this week. As the information is coming through, I'm drawing arrows and things. Anyway, if you've aligned to 3D, you are kind of programmed to respond to what's there. So you will be believing in the projection, in what they say in the projection, and they will then use your belief in it, your power, your energy, your consciousness that you're focusing there to manifest it. Or you'll be scared of what you see and hear is coming. This is more for the kind of spiritual, a little bit more awake people, or the conspiracy theorist even. But you'll be scared of what you see and hear is coming in the future, part of their agenda. And when you go into fear, you drop your frequency down, because at that point, a lot of people, even I see this in the spiritual people, they are now switched off. They're denying it, and they don't want to look at it, they don't want to focus on it, and they go into freeze. Now, that's different though than saying that I'm neutral. I'm a spiritual person and I'm neutral. I'm not in the polarity anymore. I'm in the 0 point. I'm in that neutral space. So even some of the more spiritual or awake people are doing this, and it looks like they're being neutral, as I said, but underneath there's fear, and it's the fear that has shut them down. They've actually gone into the freeze state sometimes. So look at how many of these spiritual people that we thought were more evolved, look at how many of them went along with what they were told to do over the last few years. That wasn't their soul guidance telling them to do that. They dropped from that connection. They dropped in frequency or density. And now they're here in this 3D projection, and they're picking up the information. They may have gone into fear, they may have gone into freeze, and now they're just going along with whatever they got to do. The belief is to survive here. As I say, when we're acting in that way, we're not getting our guidance from our soul anymore. And that's very different than elevating your consciousness into 5D and beyond, to that soul connection, and into the levels, the domain of infinite potential, the quantum field, if you like. and all of the power that you have at that level. It's expansive, it's liberating, and it's a creative force. And I think it's from that level that we can also see what we need to do to release ourselves from this control, at the lower level. Now, the problem is, I talked about this last week, when you disconnect from your soul and you are connecting to the entertainment that they give you here, or the AI, that's given to you specifically to disconnect and disempower you. And you don't want that to happen. You have to maintain your connection with your soul at all costs, really. You also don't want to be so overly connected to the stories that go on here that keeps you stuck here either. So our stories, as spiritual people, our stories can be what we were in a previous life here. It can be our religion, it can be our family connections, it can be our perceived contract, our mission, but it can also be bindings and vows, all of that, all of the stuff that we think that happened here. We need to let it all go, because it's only relevant here in this 3D simulation. Not really so much beyond that, because when you're beyond that, you know yourself as infinite potential. You can see the storylines here. Well, you see it all a little bit differently. Even our galactic history, to some degree, is open to interpretation. We know that Earth's true history is hidden from us. We find old buildings under the ocean, photographs of technology that existed like a couple of hundred years ago that is so much more advanced than what they're letting us have now. Electric cars originally, I think, came in about 1910 or 1920, and now they're hailing it as a new thing now. So anyway, if we go back and look at hidden Earth history here, it's not what we've seen. There's so much more going on here than what we are allowed to know. And there are layers upon layers, and it's all been happening here kind of in this time space, but at different levels of frequency. Could we just open our minds in the wonder of what is truly possible for us as humans if we could elevate our consciousness and allow next level knowing to come through? We are so much more than we think we are. Yet we, wait for our death so that we can see our loved ones again. But, likely is that their consciousness is at 4D. It's their consciousness, it's their energy. They're not really there. They're not there in the physical. So, people go, when I die, I'll be with my loved ones again. Well, their physical body's gone. It's their consciousness that you're connecting with. If it is that, even that could be a projection. But either way, you're going to be heading into 4D, the astral plane. It's not an enlightened plane of consciousness, as I have said. So if you're planning on reuniting with them there, if that's where you're planning to go, then guess what? You're coming straight back in here again because you're not getting out, right? There's a glass ceiling that prevents you leaving this reality until you connect with your soul and you expand your consciousness beyond. But, you just got to break through that before you can see so much more about what's really going on here. If you can't break through that, then you are bound by your beliefs that this is all there is. But there's the looping pattern. You die, you meet your loved ones, you come back in for another go. Or, you die and you go back and you think, this time I'm going to go and learn this lesson. And here you are in this ever repeating cycle. So I'll pause for a moment to let that in. The point is, actually, she says, going on quickly, their agenda keeps us stuck like a hamster on a wheel. It's the reincarnational wheel until we realize it, and until we realize that we have the opportunity to experience something different, a different reality here even. In order to experience a different reality here, though, we have to go beyond. We actually have to create something like Tara, which was the 5D Earth originally. So it's kind of like that we're trying to bring heaven to Earth, or going back to Eden in a sense. Tara, the 5D Earth experience, well, the Tara experience, was already lost in devolution once before. But many of us here hold that original coding in our DNA, and we remember it. And when we awaken that, by not being trapped in this density at 3D and 4D thinking, we can evolve our consciousness back to our original 5D, awakening that level and beyond, because some of us hold much higher potential when we're not sucked into 3D. We can all be sucked into 3D. Nobody's immune from it when you're here. But we have to be able to hold that higher level of consciousness. Otherwise, we step ahead in our evolution, our spiritual awakening, but then we're pulled back, and we step ahead again and we pull back again all the time, and we're not getting anywhere, usually because we give in to those lower vibratory states of the sometimes lust, because sex is powerful at those lower levels. So it's lust and sex and greed and power and money. People get money hungry, power hungry, and then they just want to manifest for personal gain. And here we are again, right? And that's actually how we fell into this lower density experience, because people started wanting to accumulate stuff for service to self, personal gain. And it's true, I believe anyway, in my opinion, that some of us are here on a rescue mission, holding higher levels, higher templates within our body, and higher, more activated strands, and more remembering within our DNA to help inspire and awaken people to their highest potential. But we can't do that if we're living in fear. So what we have to do is access that higher vision, access the soul and those higher levels of self, and hold that vibration, hold the vision and the potential to experience it here as a reality. Then when we're living from that level ourselves, when we fully embodied it, soul embodiment, healing the shadow, when we're living at that level, then we begin to create the dimensional shift here globally, in the similar way to what we do when we create the shift of consciousness in our own body. So there's the macro and the micro. When we all live and embody this 5D mind way of being, service to others, etc., well then, when we're all living in that way, then we create our reality based upon that. It's more evolved, it's more conscious, but we can't do that when we're living in fear, or when we're expecting to go back to the way things were, or when we're expecting some terrible agenda that they've got planned for us. If we're putting our belief into that happening, we're putting our energy into that happening. Things are not going to go back to the way they were before, because we've been in this density for too long already, and we need to shift out of it. And we also have to be conscious that what we vision, what we feed our energy into, is what we want to experience, not what someone else wants us to experience. Otherwise, we are bound then. We are limited. We're not sovereign. We're not free in any sense of the word. But the thing is, very often we don't think we're worthy of experiencing more, whether that's, in our personal life or as a collective on this planet. They are trying to program us to believe that we're useless and powerless. And if we believe that, then we become that. The thing is, we have been ritually shamed here by religious teachings, by us feeling, powerless against the controllers. If we believe we're not worthy of creating a better future, we can't have one. But the point is, we are worthy. We are worth it. And that applies to our life and our business, or our soul mission. The thing is, when you're living from your soul mission, you do want the best for everyone. You want to uplift everybody. And that's why some of us are very passionate about putting our messages across. The thing is, we have to believe that we are worth it, and we are. We are capable of achieving this shift of consciousness on the micro and on the macro, personally and collectively. But not if we sit back and do nothing. We have to step up and we have to say, this is worth the work. Healing, the shadow work, everything that it takes to shift our consciousness and be able to hold it at that high vibrational level. And we are capable of achieving this, or we wouldn't be here now at this time of change. We wouldn't be having this connection. We wouldn't be on this planet, quite simply. And we wouldn't be having this conversation if there was something within you that I could inspire to wake up and to shift. We're all working towards this collectively. We have to support each other, not in a way that is service to self, but is service to others, knowing that when we give, we receive back. And that's just one of those higher vibrational truths that maybe you won't even get until you're at that level and holding it at that level. But once you're there, then you can see the most beautiful potential for this planet, for us. But we have to step up and we have to vision a future that we want to experience. As I say, not one that someone else wants to lead us towards. The focus is on our freedom, sovereignty, liberation, knowing that we are worth it. So there's some food for thought there. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it, your experience of it. As a quick reminder, of course, if this has been helpful to you, please share it to someone else that you think could also benefit. Please like and subscribe this channel, because we have to work with the 3D algorithms of YouTube so that I can get this message out to more people, so that more people can be inspired to shift their consciousness too. And of course, a quick reminder that my course, Worthy and Wealthy Woman, is opening up on the 12th. We start, actually, the doors are open in the next couple of days. We start the course on the 12th of October. And what this will mean for you is that you get to release all of those stories that have held you back in shame, in poverty, in unworthiness, And when you release all of that, you're no longer buying into the story of this 3D. With those stories gone, you can much more easily shift into 5D consciousness. And that's where you absolutely embody the understanding that as you give, so you receive. There is this exchange of energy, the in breath, the out breath, and you will always be supported when you're working at that level. So if you're interested to know more about that, if you want to ask me anything, whether it's right for you or not, send me a message and let's talk about it very soon. Okay, I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.